of theoretical concepts of streamed data. Now let's move ahead for the practical implementations. Ma'am, over to you, please.
Okay, so I'm sharing my screen first. Uh, so is it visible, my screen?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, just keep this video off. Okay, fine. So in my first session, I have emphasized on the utility of data visualization, and then how data visualization is taking new shape in under this big data era. So to start with the implementation part, I will be taking help of Big Data Hadoop ecosystems and its core components for data visualization, as well as we'll also see how various machine learning algorithms can be run over it. So I'm giving you a brief idea like how to process with the big data Hadoop ecosystem. So as the name Hadoop is concerned, so Hadoop is basically storage and processing platform. Okay, and it is open source. So it is based on the efforts taken by Google. So earlier it was not open source, but later it came as an open source. So here basically we can do massive scalable parallel execution. Okay, so it is a storage and processing tool. Okay, the name Hadoop is because of this toy which you can see in this picture. It is written in Java, but you can use Scala, Python, and Java for your implementation over Hadoop. Okay, so basically over this platform, these are the three languages which are possible to implement. And the purpose of this Hadoop ecosystem is we can run thousands of concurrent tasks, even more than that concurrent tasks parallelly in a very quicker way without having any difficulty. Okay, so so whatever problems I raised earlier, like sometimes we need to deal with the static data, sometimes we need to deal with the data in motion, and there are various constraints when we deal with the data in motion. So all these aspects are we need to accommodate. So there is one earlier approach which you can say that traditional database approach. So traditional database approach was more towards this static storage of data. Now we have to see how we can handle data in motion part. Okay. So if we talk about Hadoop, so we can install the Hadoop with the help of Apache open source library platforms. And basically hardware requirement is not as such very specific. Any ordinary hardware device, means whatever machines you are using, that you can use for the Hadoop installation purpose. Okay. If we talk about operating system requirements, so it is fully compatible with Unix, Linux, and Windows environment. If we see the browser requirement, so it is working well with Google Chrome or Internet Explorer or Firefox. For software requirement, initially we need Java, and for hardware for database requirement we have to install the plugin of Hive or MySQL dataset. Hadoop installation is possible in three different ways. One is the standalone mode. So standalone node means a single node in a single standalone instance. So one machine you can use and there is one processing node. Then there is a pseudo distributed mode where you have one machine, but within one machine you are creating multiple processing nodes. So you will feel like you are doing the task concurrently under multiple processing nodes, but actually it is the same machine. Then there is a fully distributed machine where we can have multiple machines with multiple nodes, and then they can work together as a for parallelization purpose, with the understanding that there would be one master node and various slave node. Okay. See, the guidelines for Hadoop installation is already available in the website. So if you see the Apache websites, so Apache open source library, you will get everything step by step for that. I'm just highlighting certain key points which are important. So you can see that whenever you are downloading the Hadoop ecosystem or installing the Hadoop ecosystem, it will not come alone. It is coming with all these features. Okay. So basically we have HDFS, that is Hadoop distributed file system. So you have to understand, like, since we are working on big data, so whatever our hardware capacity in terms of storage is limited. So through Hadoop distributed file system, one a large file can get stored into multiple different locations. So you means it is a breaking the file into manageable units, and you can store it in a different locations. Okay, so for that there is Hadoop distributed file system. Then we have Yarn. Yarn is basically yet another resource navigator. So Yarn is just like your operating system support. So with the help of Yarn, you can do some basic resource management things. For resource management means creating the nodes, supporting means making one node as master node, several other nodes may be working as a slave node, something like that. So basically Yarn is a resource management kind of thing. So basically creating the whole environment, distributed environment, is the responsibility of Yarn. Then there is a MapReduce programming paradigm. So this is a place where you have to write the actual program so that you can handle the big data processing. Then you have Spark. So Spark is for in-memory data processing. So Spark basically we use to work on stream processing when we have no time to store, when we want to work for in-memory computation, and when the real-time analytics is actually required. Then we have Pig and Hive. So Pig and Hive are the data processing services using queries. So they are basically SQL-like queries which can be performed over big data through Pig and Hive. Then we have HBase. So HBase is basically a way to work with the database, and it is like NoSQL database. Then as far as the machine learning is concerned, we have Mahout and Spark MLib libraries. So all the machine learning libraries, including clustering, classification, regression. So all these machine learning features are available in the Spark. Then we have Apache Drill, so that you can run some queries to get the data or some results over there. Zookeeper is also for managing the clusters. OG is for job scheduling. So suppose you are working in a scenario where you are running jobs parallelly and in a distributed mode. So we can use some scheduling mechanism for it through OG. Then we have Flume and Scoop. So Flume and Scoop is for the data ingestion services. So for example, suppose I am having a sensor in my room, and it is simple temperature sensor or air quality monitor sensor. The question is, whatever sensor data I am getting, how to inject that data to some processing environment. So there must be certain receiver. So that receiver which can accommodate the streaming data which is coming through this sensor could be supported through Flume or Scoop. Then we have Solar and Lucene. So they are basically searching and indexing purpose. So you know that like searching and indexing. Searching means to extract some information, and indexing means to create some index. Index is just like a storage mechanism to store them, to keep them in certain order. So basically for that purpose we have Solar and Lucene. And then we have Ambry. Ambry is again for maintaining the clusters. So basically these are the things. Other than this, we will be using Kibana, Elasticsearch, and Lostech. So they are basically for visualization purpose. So these are the things which I am highlighting today for your understanding. So the first thing is like to start working with the MapReduce. So basically what you need to do, you can go for the step-by-step process of installing the MapReduce. So that may be a little tricky. So it is not the correct platform to guide you how to install the MapReduce. I'm assuming that there are various platforms, tutorials available for the installation purpose. But I can help you to understand the utility here. So why we use map and reduce paradigm, you can understand it this way. Like most of the time, if suppose I am getting some heavy work, so what is my intention to complete that work on time, I may take help of others. So taking help of others means I can suppose I got a 100 pages book to get it typed. So what I can do, I may type 10 pages and then I can similarly distribute 10 pages to each of my helpers so that they can get it typed. And finally, I may compile the whole soft copy of the task and then we can get it done. So the same thing is here, like MapReduce is a programming model. Okay, and there are two important things. One is the map function and second is the reduce function. Mapping is like distributing. So suppose I am getting this typing job, so I distributed 10 pages to each operator. So it is mapping function. Distribute and then reducing function is a kind of collection function or taking the aggregation of all those. And whatever I distribute in such a way so that it can be done parallelly. So basically, uh, through mapping function, through MapReduce programming environment, we can automatically parallelize the computation across the nodes, processing nodes or cluster of machines in a very reliable manner. So you may have various concern like what will happen if one operator will fail to serve on time. So suppose I have given 10 pages to each of the operator, every operator, and one operator is not reported on time. Then that may be lacking of reliability. But we assume that this MapReduce environment is full of reliability because what it will do or what I have to do to avoid this situation, I can give and I may not offer only 10 operators, but I will offer 20, means I will engage 20 operators and I will I will assign duplicate tasks. So suppose if any operator is not working, the other operator can support that situation. So the same thing is here also. So this MapReduce environment, we quote that it is a fault tolerant environment. It is a reliable environment because here we give duplicate task among various nodes in such a way so that if one nodes fail, still we can able to extract some work. So basically this is all about the MapReduce work. Okay. So I'm not going much detail, but I'm taking one simple example like how MapReduce work. So suppose there is a very common conventional task. It is known as word count task. Okay, so suppose word count program is there which we have to make. And so how we can make word count program for big data scenario, I'm giving you one example. So it could be a static data, means there is a static file, or it could be a dynamic data. So maybe the data is coming in terms of stream. So what we can do, we can take the help of mapper or reducer function for it. So suppose this is your incoming data or input data where these three lines are written, and suppose we want to execute it. So what we'll do, we will create a mapper function and reducer function for this purpose. So the final output should be like this. If it is a word count program, so it should show that bad is coming only one time, good is coming only one time, Hadoop is coming 3 times, and these other prepositions, they are also coming 2 or 1 time. So this should be the output. Now the question is how to process. Okay, so basically what we need to do, basically what we need to do, whatever input we get, we need to create the split file for this. So these are the split file we have to create. So in your Hadoop environment, there is a facility to create a mapper function or a reducer function. So and every mapper function will get associated with one split file. So with the help of that split, you can create the mapper function, and mapper function is nothing but an individual worker. So what we did, suppose there was 3 lines, so we have given 1 line to each mapper, each worker, and with some mapper function. Okay, so basically you can understand like this. So this is our input file. So we will divide it like with the understanding that we will be taking 3 files, 3 words at a time. So welcome to Hadoop is one set of word, class Hadoop is another, and this one is another, and then this one. Okay, so these are the way in which where we are creating input splits. So with the help of this mapping programming environment, you can get very easy interface to create the input splits. So and you can also define what should be the range. Then the mapping function will take the core code, and this core code is nothing but to map, to scan the words one by one, for and for every new word there will be a counter which is incrementing, and for every repeated word the same counter will increment, otherwise a new counter will introduce. So this is basically the mapping function. So since welcome is a, after scanning welcome is coming first time, so we have taken 1, then again this one is coming first time and this one is coming first time. So this is basically the mapper function. So for every split we need to run this mapper function, and once it will run, then there will be a shuffling step, and in shuffling step what we will do, will make group of similar words, or basically to group of similar maps. So you can see that here we are creating the group of Hadoop words, so it is coming 3 times, it is coming 1 time, and so on. And finally reducer is nothing but to take the cumulative shape of all the values which we have received from the shuffling phase. And finally you can see we are getting that these are the basically the final input. So this is the way how MapReduce architecture will work. So
1 second. So, ma'am, I'm Vikas this side. Can you please move to the back slide?
yeah.
Yeah. So if in a splits input split, if it is good is Hadoop is coming at twice. So in mapping, the count of is 2 will be 2. Am I right?
Yeah.
And then the following shuffling and reducer will be count will be incremented. Am I right? Now
Yes.
this is the right approach. Okay, right. This is just a confirmation. Thank you.
So basically, like if it is nothing but certain text stream which you are repeating, which you are receiving, so there is no guarantee that the particular text stream is coming at once or it is repeating. So basically, it means it is just every occurrence it is incrementing its value. So if you are repeating the same stream or something like that, then it will definitely take it as a means increment in terms of count.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. So basically, this is the way how the MapReduce function will work. And this is the core of Hadoop ecosystem. Like most of the time we see if the jobs are parallelizable, then definitely we need to follow this mapper or reducer function. And the more mapper and reducer environment we will use, the more we may able to get efficiency in terms of concurrency, in terms of you can say that faster execution and all. So if I go with the background details, so it is nothing but to have 2 types of you can say that units. One is you can say that name nodes, and second is the data node. So same name node is basically a kind of manager, so it is job tracker, and data nodes are basically dealing with the tasks, so execution of the tasks. So you can say that it is a kind of master slave thing. So master's responsibility is to distribute the task to the data node so that they can perform the particular task and update it for the job tracker. So this is all about the background thing. So I'm moving fast because I have to integrate so many things. So this for any there may be any kind of things like this is the base function. So whenever we are doing some social media analytics, whenever we are working with the streaming data, and if simply you have to show that which is the most frequently used word through word count program. So suppose the task is like we want to say that which one is the frequently used word in a series of stream. So streams we are getting from our Twitter analytics platform, and we are simply counting each and every type, and then after counting it we can either identify the sentiment index. So if the words are similar words which we identified like positive words, they are coming again and again, so we can say that the sentiment index, positive sentiment index, may be high. So this is the basic work which we can do in terms of processing. Now the question is, if it is a platform like Twitter, so we are getting the data which is coming in streams. So do we think that to accommodate high velocity streams, we need some extra arrangements? So definitely for these high velocity streams, we have to make a kind of pipeline so that these streams can be taken into buffer for a very small fraction of time, and they can be given to different channels so that parallelly they can execute. Before that, if suppose assume that it is not a data stream but it is a large kind of book or some repository kind of things, and any repository which is a static type, and we are looking for some kind of these word count examples and all. So if it is a kind of static storage, then we have to take help of Hadoop distributed file system. So whenever we try to run these applications, we need to run the Hadoop distributed file system. So running the Hadoop distributed file system means what will happen, you will see like suppose I am copying 10 GB data to some place or to some directory. So it will look like a single directory, but actually what is happening through these kind of distributed file system support, there is no place available at once. So what it can do, like out of my this large file, it will create a small instance of that file, maybe 1 GB of single instance, and it can distribute it towards the 10 different nodes or 10 different machines, and it may get stored over there, and finally whenever I want to retrieve it back, it will give me a complete picture. So that is the case. So Hadoop distributed file system allows us to store the data over multiple nodes. And most of the time, whenever we deal with the big data thing, this HDFS files are really great support, because there are commodity hardwares which we are using, and we are not using very huge storage kind of thing. So with the help of distributed file system, we may accommodate more and more application in our day-to-day environment. Okay, so and similarly, distributed processing systems are also possible. So I can give you one example. Yeah, so distributed storage means 10 terabytes of files can get stored in 10 machines with 1 terabyte of each machine. Okay, so and whatever the user will feel like it is stored at one place. So it is a background support which we are receiving from the Hadoop distributed file system. The another thing is distributed computation. So distributed computation means suppose I'm taking 10 terabyte files. If I am scanning it, maybe some parser, and I need 43 minutes to scan. So what it will do, it will run all the parsers parallelly in different nodes, so that even the scanning part could be done parallelly, and whatever was there with 43 minutes with one processing element, now I can do it with the help of 10 processing elements in 4.3 minutes only. So that is the way how the parallel computation can be done. So again, with the help of Hadoop distributed file systems, we not only distributing the storage space, but we are also capable to run our execution in that distributed storage on some parallel nodes, whatever we have using, and it is a way to reduce the time for that particular task. So basically you can understand it like there are two types of scalability which is possible. One is vertical scalability. So vertical scalability means what we can do in one machine, we may increase our memory. Okay, but that is having a limitation. So like you can not increase your memory up to certain level. So Hadoop distributed file system with Hadoop ecosystem is providing us horizontal scalability. So horizontal scalability means you can add a number of hardwares, and then you can imagine the unlimited capabilities in terms of storage as well as in terms of processing power. So this is basically the advantage. Now come to the third component. So this is the Kafka. So what happened now, you can see, you can understand like distribution of storage is possible. So you can distribute in a number of machine and then you can retrieve. Even you will feel like it is stored at one place. So Hadoop will do it as a backup, means background task. Then for through mapper and reducer function, you can run parallel codes and at different processing nodes, and you may feel like you are doing all simultaneously. So again, this is something which is supporting. See the third component of Hadoop ecosystem, that is Kafka. So Kafka means what I can say here, like as I told you, if data is available all at once, that is not an issue. But suppose if data is not available all together, so basically suppose it is generating time to time, it is coming in terms of stream. So Kafka is used for providing the data pipelines for these streaming data. So it is a kind of receiver. So whatever you are generating through your IoT devices, through Kafka, you can get it injected to your computing environment. Okay, so basically it is just receiving the streams with some data pipeline so that a small management delays can get means accommodated, and that can be and similarly the streams can further directed to the various processing units. Okay, so this is basically the role of the Kafka. Okay. What I can say that, so Kafka can receive the data from web applications. Kafka can receive data from our custom apps. It can receive data from any of Twitter kind of analytics or database application, Hadoop. So basically it can take data from all such sources, and then it can utilize it for further purposes. It can get utilized. So what is the concept of Kafka? Basically it is working in the form of producer and consumer APIs. So producer API is basically to publish a stream of data in terms of various topics. Topics are nothing but a categorization of the stream, and consumer APIs is basically again whatever is the published, the same can be consumed for certain specific purposes. So basically this is the Kafka having two APIs. One is producer, second is consumer. Then we have a stream API. So a stream API is for the stream processor. So a stream processor can get supported various kind of streaming functions. For example, we want that every streaming element can get transferred or can get filtered, and then we have connector API. So basically it is for the purpose of connecting the stream to some table or to some database. So basically this is the Kafka. So what you can understand as a sole aim of Kafka is to get the data which is coming from various sources in terms of stream, and to provide a temporary communication channel to that, and then forward it to the next unit for further processing. So this is basically the Kafka. So Kafka support us very small processing time in terms of storage, in terms of certain what you can say that small processing, like we can create windows with the help of Kafka. We can take the aggregation of two streams. We can perform certain filtering kind of things. And you can see here the Kafka is very fast. It can perform 2 million writes per second. So you can understand, like, whatever streaming data we are getting from multiple sources, how the Kafka will able to capture that data for further processing. Now you see I'm coming to the another point, that is Elasticsearch. So uh, not only the data which we need to acquire, but it is also important that all these acquired data uh, we can able to search, or we can able to filter out. So this is the another feature which is available over Hadoop ecosystem, where what we can do, we can have a scalable open source full text search and analytics. Okay, so what we can do, through Elasticsearch, we can able to store whatever data we are acquiring from some one-time source or maybe continuous source, and then we may able to search, and then we may able to analyze it also. So basically this is the feature of Elasticsearch. It is a kind of environment where you can create the index, where you can create different index is nothing but you can say a shape of a file, like a shape of some storage unit. Okay, so it can get means basically the Elasticsearch can get associated with the any of the previous data generation sources. So it may be the HTTP web, where from where the data is coming, or it may be the data which is coming from certain set of documents. Okay, so it is kind of search engine. Okay, and what kind of means what kind of things which can be supported here, like we can store, we can search, we can analyze, and all the things we can do with the help of our natural language. So there is no need to write very specific queries, but you can help take the help of simple natural language to utilize the features of Elasticsearch. Okay, so it is having multilingual actually. So natural language means we can take the help of English and other languages for this purpose. And these are whatever you are trying to store here or retrieve here, it is providing a very easy interface through various APIs. So maybe it's systematic storage, you can say. So sometimes these systematic storage can help us for better utilization. Okay, and all these things are in a very small fraction of time. So that is basically the good part of the Elasticsearch. Okay, and they are document oriented. So document oriented means, since we are dealing with the data which is unstructured type, or which is nothing but a collection of document, so every time whatever it is stored in simple JSON format, and the indexing will managed so efficiently, so that it can be easily searchable. Okay, so there is no rows and there is no column, but you can perform the search in that documents in a free hand. So that is basically the advantage of this Elasticsearch, that is document oriented. Okay, so or you can say that it is a schema free. And there is one thing which I want to highlight here. See, there are two terms, one is the real time and second is the near real time. So we should understand the difference. If it is real time, then it is exactly real time. Means I cannot say like it is a microsecond, means microsecond fraction of delay, or you can understand as there is no delay. If I am saying that it is a near real time, then definitely I understand that there may be a slight delay. So basically what I say, this Elasticsearch is a near real time search engine platform. So whatever you will try to search, definitely you will get a slight delay, maybe 1 state per second. But this slight delay is again, it is not going to matter hard, because whatever we'll get, we will get immediately, maybe means that is the quickest way to get it. Okay, so what we do, for example, suppose you are getting some data and you want to visualize it. So what we need to do, you have to create index for it. So what is index? Index is a collection of documents having similar characteristics. So suppose these data are nothing but some Twitter text or tweets. So what we can do, we can simply create an index where we can make some size, like the we are taking the Twitter data size of such some words, and if it is less than that, then it is fine, or if it is having some more means extended size, then it can be limited to that only. Okay. And then with the help of this, every index can be identified with the unique name, and then at the time of any search, these index can referred. Okay, so whatever data you are getting, it is like a creating a dictionary. So you can create number of dictionary means indexes as per your preferences. So for example, if the data is weather data, so we can create different index. So according to subject, according to relevance, we can create different index. So index is the means Elasticsearch give us a way to create various index. Okay. So index is, you can say that index is something which is a logical separation. Okay. The physical separation can be done through document. Okay. So document is the basic unit of information which we can index. Okay. So these documents may be having different kind of information, different kind of fields, and these documents are basically, we consider that they are schema free documents, and we can create the collection of documents within an index. So within an index, n number of documents can be stored. So suppose I created an index of Twitter feed. So in Twitter feed, if I am creating documents like different users, like there is a user, and if I want to check the personality of the user, so I want that whatever user is participating in any tweet, let us make a file for that, means let us have a summary of that. So one document will be means the index is nothing but I'm taking the tweets, and document of every user means I'm taking the tweets of individual user in one document. So in this way, I can arrange the index as well as the document. Okay, then we have the type. So type is basically the types of documents. So types of documents means we can give some extra details about that particular document. Then we have node, and node are basically the processing elements. So every document may be associated with one node, and you can imagine that we are working with millions of records, so we can have more and more nodes for the searching purpose, indexing purpose, and for other purposes. Then we have clusters. So clusters are collection of more one or more Elasticsearch nodes to work together. So it is a kind of grouping thing, you can say that. So within the cluster, they can share some of the resources, or they can share some of the mechanism or policies. So that is nothing but a grouping some similar nodes for the common type of task or responsibilities. Then we have shared. So shared is basically what we do, they are basically the multiple pieces of information or indexing which we can take for the execution purpose. So that is all about creating the background. So suppose if I have given a visualization task, as I told you, so that visualization task is about to visualize whatever is happening over Twitter. So what I can do, suppose if it is a word count program, so definitely I should take the MapReduce help for that. Maybe I'm just counting the positive keywords through some NLP interface, and then if it is all together available, I should store the file in Hadoop distributed file system. If it is not available altogether, if I am taking it real time, so I should take the help of Kafka, so that every stream as per its generation can be accommodated to the processing elements, and processing elements here immediately after stream acquisition, I need to create an index with the help of Elasticsearch, so that these indexing is nothing but keeping in proper category or visualization, the role of Kibana is here. So Kibana is a tool where we can perform the visualization aspects, but it is not working alone. You understand, it is working with Elasticsearch. So it is an open source tool for analytics and visualization purpose to work with the Elasticsearch. And Kibana is just like, you can say that Foundation is your Elasticsearch, and Kibana is it is a kind of agent which is working on that foundation. So Kibana can be used to search, view, or interact with the data which is stored in the Elasticsearch. Okay, and we can perform some of the analytics here, like we can filter out, we can see the various graphs, we can see the charts, tables, and maps. And again, you can see that the background is so strong, so it can help us to process the large volume of data. And this large volume of data, if you are visualizing through Kibana, so it will be very easy to understand through various display settings or through various dashboards. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to do the basic setup over the Kibana. So I can give one demonstration for this. Just finishing this description, I have prepared a video because real-time preparation means executing maybe little time taking, so video can be shown. So Kibana is a kind of presentation tool, and sometimes we always call as Canvas, and where we can see the live data directly from the Elasticsearch. So whatever data it is fed to your system, you can visualize through Kibana, and they are basically known as ELK stack. So ELK stack is basically Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. So basically these are the three things. So how they are working, you can see. So basically there are maybe multiple logs which we are getting through some microservices, and these logs are given to the Elasticsearch for foundation preparation. It is nothing but creating the indexes and creating the appropriate files, maybe in JSON format, and then Kibana is for as per user interaction. So basically this is the way how we work. So you can see there are interactive charts and some mapping support, aggregation, filters, and dashboards for the various purposes. So before going to that, I can run the one video, I think, yes. So you can see how it is working. So basically what we need to run whenever actually the whole system is very complex, so it is very difficult to accommodate, but yes, so I am assuming that the Hadoop ecosystem is ready with Elasticsearch and Kibana, and in this prompt, this console, we have written the Elasticsearch and then Kibana. So it is basically calling the services of Elasticsearch and Kibana. So it may take few moments to run the Kibana and Elasticsearch in background, and you can see that we are getting the ready message. So ready message means this one. Ready message means now your system is up and they are fully.
Your video is not displaying.
Oh.
I think you'll
it?
have to first unshare it and then share it. Maybe your video is not being displayed.
Okay, madam. Just a minute. I thought that I have shared the whole screen. So, okay. I can
you share your desktop, the first icon, when you share the desktop, then your video can easily be seen. And if you have some sound, then you have to, while sharing the desktop, you have to, there's a toggle button just above the desktop. You have to accordingly set it.
So, madam, I'm running it again. So, is it okay now?
We can see that screen, but not in video mode as of now.
No, it is already progressing. You just see. It means the voice is live. I'm showing the recorded screen actually. Can you see my mouse movement?
No.
Okay. Let me try one more. I'm
now your mouse is moving.
Yeah, so you can see this. I'm clicking this screenshot recorder.
Right, right.
Yeah, so this is, can you see this now?
No.
Why it is not coming? Like, just a minute.
Ma'am, unshare it, and when you share, you select the first icon, that is desktop.
Yeah,
First, you
so,
unshare this.
okay, let me unshare. So, okay, now I'm going to share.
Well, in the
And
bottom row, you will see the first icon, that is of desktop. You share that one.
okay, so now I think desktop
Now
is,
I think it will be visible.
okay, fine. So within that desktop, I have this
Right,
demo folder.
right.
I'm clicking this, and now
Now
it
we can
is.
see. Now we can
Okay.
see.
Okay, so what I was saying, like if our ecosystem is ready, so we'll run two applications. One is Elasticsearch and the second is Kibana. So it is taking time to load. So I have in console, I have simply written Elasticsearch and Kibana, and these will get activated. So getting activated means they are now ready with the support of HDFS file system, or they are ready with the support of Kafka, whatever data ingestion policy we have taken, and then we can see the basic things. So it will come with this. I can show my mouse here. So it is coming with this ready prompt. So ready prompt means the Kibana and Elasticsearch is ready. Then we need to run this local host. Okay, so these applications are running over the local host, and you can see in this local host, basically there are various features of Kibana. So within this we can create some log files, and these log files can be of any particular purpose, and that can be you can say that stored, and that can be visualized, that can be add up, and we can use some further details over that log files. Okay, so these are the first picture of the Kibana, and there are in the right side, left side, you can see there are various options available. So like discover, visualize, dashboard, canvas, machine learning, a small machine learning features we can also do here. So basically whatever data it will it will cat means show you, you can do some of these tasks over there with this Kibana tool. Okay, most popular thing is visualization and dashboard. So visualization and dashboard, we can see how we can do it. Okay, so I'm moving ahead with this. So we can have certain management issues also. So as I told you, like management means creating an index file. So I'm taking an example of the flight data. So index file means I want that these should be the fields. So basically it is a way to create the data. Okay, so I'm creating this flight details with some of my preferences. So I have taken various field and their types, maybe number type, string type, and some of these. So basically this is the index pattern. So index pattern is nothing but it is a kind of skeleton or the way you are trying to save that particular data. Okay, then so this is the way how we can run the particular sample file in terms of its creation. And then you see there are other aspects like we can uh, perform these operations. For example, like you just see we can have like console. So console is a kind of step by step functioning of it. We can have monitoring through the dashboard, and we can have roll ups, so where we can summarize or some of the things we can extend. So basically these are the Kibana interface which we can utilize. Okay, other than this I can go to some of the aspects. Okay, very quickly I can show you the visualization aspect. So since I have taken the air traffic data, so you can see that visualization can be done on various basis. So you have to simply choose like what kind of visualization you want. So we can change the date, or means we can offer the dates for the visualization. So whatever is stored over the Elasticsearch that can be viewed with the help of visualization. So see, what is the best part of it, since most of the audience may be not very familiar with the big data tools, but definitely the visualization is something which is required very naturally. So you don't need to write any line of code for at least all these features. It is easily available. Means only the few clicks, some small console, you can say that commands you have to do, and you can easily work upon this. So they are very user friendly in that sense. So most of the time we have to take, we are not worried about all such things. And then you can see that it is very rich. In fact, it is very difficult to summarize all the things with this small session. Like you can have various kind of data, and it is all live. All live means you may see, like if today there is no flight, so it will capture the data of this date only, and it will show that there is no flight. So even if it is a stock market data, so you can see the last 5-minute performance or last 2-minute performance. The only thing is from where we are getting the data. So suppose if you have injected the Yahoo finance data, which is free, stock market data, which is free. So if we can connect our Kafka with that source, you can see all the minute to minute or second to second developments here without any of your effort. So it is the job of Kibana, which is doing it for your behalf. So in this way, you can see that all possible kind of visualizations with different aspects, like I'm going to change the date. So so basically it can be shown, and there is nothing required in terms of programming capability or something, only some settings and some configuration familiarization. Means you have to be familiarized with this, and you may able to see all these details. So what is the best part? The best part is it can directly connect with your live data. So live data can be Twitter data, live data can be any bulletin data, it may be a satellite data, it may be some whatever you can say, like sensor data, and it can easily get connected, and once it is connected, you can perform a number of operations. Some small JSON files we can write for a particular task. So that is also possible. Like if you want to do very customized thing which is not yet available here, so you may able to you will get a small console to write all those aspects. And as I told you, like most of these tasks they are clubbed with the Hadoop ecosystem, so you can write the various small scripts by using Python or Scala or Java. So basically this is just an example like how Kibana will work. And you can see the all utilities we can see here, like we want to see the means whatever are the various components, you may able to visualize it. So the only thing is, if you want to come to this level, like you want to see the Kibana, so you have to be prepared with the Hadoop ecosystem in terms of some basic components if it is required for the logical purpose, that MapReduce programs. Then either Kafka should be there to get the streams, then Elasticsearch should be there to have the foundation preparation, maybe the indexing have to prepare, means table creation or whatever you understand. And then finally over it we are working with Kibana so that we can see the visualization of various aspects. So this was just okay, this was just a demo to highlight all the features of Kibana. Okay, so with this, I am now coming back to the further features which we can show. Just a minute. I'm coming back to my slides. Okay, so now slides are visible. Okay, I think it is visible. So that is the role of Kibana for visualization purpose. But sometimes Kibana is not having, although it is having a small machine learning support, But sometimes, as I told you very in our previous session slide, like what was my concluding statement? The concluding statement was like now the visualization is not a simple visualization tool. It should capable enough to do computer vision. It should capable enough to do machine learning. It should capable enough to do data mining, and then with all these capability it should able to visualize. So if we are working with the streaming data, so that visualization should not be just to convert the data into the form of picture, but we have to do a lot with the data so that the data can be prepared for the visualization. So for that I am here with the explanation of Apache Spark. So Apache Spark is a machine learning, means big data stream processing tools, not only machine learning, but it is a complete tool for data stream processing. And what is the difference with Spark and other Hadoop systems? Like it is in-memory computational environment. So I think in-memory computational environment, you can understand, like we are whatever we are processing through Spark, we are not actually storing it. It is stored in a cache for a very small fraction of time. So without storing it, because we don't have time to store, without storing it, we are processing it and we are moving ahead. And maybe whatever data you are getting at time t, maybe at t plus 1 that data will vanish and new data will come. So you are not going to repeat, means that data, means there is no repeated view of that data is possible. So basically that is the criticality in most of the real-time application. We need to do it once, only once, and we need to do it immediately, and there is no way to store. So basically what we do is to avoid any kind of access time and retrieval time and storage time, whatever we do in a cache or main memory with the help of main memory. So that's why it is known as in-memory computation. Okay, so Apache Spark is serving for the in-memory computation. It is for the streaming as well as batch data. It will help us to have more and more interactive queries. It is supporting Java, Scala and Python tools. It can scale up to the 100 of nodes. So it means more 100 nodes can be worked together, and it is having full support of all the machine learning algorithms. It is having full support of visualization tools. It is having full support of writing queries. You can write any kind of queries over there. So these are the features, and it can easily take the data from Kafka, Flume or other data ingestion tools, and it can also further support data visualization by using Kibana. So although Kibana is rich in some sense, but suppose if you are getting more means if the application are more towards the real time analytics part, so it's better to switch with this Spark and its visualization tool other than Kibana. So I can show you the difference here. You can say that it is not real time because there is a time lag. So input data and processing, there is a delay, but in Spark there is no delay. Whenever you are getting any input data, you are immediately processing it. So it is core real-time system. Spark is a core real-time system. Okay, so there is no time lag issue as such. So I'm not going much detail in terms of the architectural part, but I can show you the utility part. So utility part means the Spark core is having the other features, like it is having a SQL query interface where you can write your own queries to work with the streaming data. It is having a core streaming feature where you can define the type of streaming, the nature of streaming, and where you can more towards the streaming feature. So suppose you want to identify the type of drift which is having, so that can be done. Then there is a full-fledged machine learning libraries. So these machine learning libraries are for recommendation system. It is for dimensionality reduction. It is for basic machine classification task or unsupervised learning packages. So everything is there here. And then there is a GraphX for graph processing. So more towards the visualization, this particular module will help. And rest are the utility part. So it will help you to manage clusters or to have better processing of jobs with different nodes. So that is basically the Spark core component. Okay, so with the help of these Spark core component, we can work over various data, whatever we are getting. So I can give you other insight, like the question is how does Spark work. So basically this diagram can show you the Spark application flow. So the data can be from various sources, like data can be from Kafka, from Hadoop, and from multiple sources. Spark create RDDs. So RDDs are basically reliant distributed data sets. So basically it is a data structure where we group the data elements as such. So I can give you one example, like if you are getting the strings like hello world, new line, some text, whatever. So it means it is having a way to take a group of words and create RDD. So RDD is resilient distributed data sets. So they are very handy kind of collection of data sets. And why it is handy? Because at any time we make a random group. So there is no as such like means we can define the size of RDD for our own purposes. And these RDDs are means it is said that for the safety purpose, means for the reliability sake you take these RDDs in duplicacy, and then it can be partitioned or distributed among various nodes, and for that node you can process it. So basically this is the way how we create RDDs, and there are different ways of creating RDD. So I'm not going in that detail. I may share the PPT or tutorial materials if anybody is looking for. But once the RDD is created, so once the particular file is created, we have various series of transformation and action operators. There is no need to write more and more codes, but we need to only call these functions as per our purposes. So there are you can say that transformation functions are simply, what you can say, that it is simply it's a kind of changing the format, changing the presentation kind of thing. So they are more abstract, but action functions are actual computation, you can say. So so transfer functions are like selection, like filter, like this, and action functions are like multiplication, division, doing for more details, it is like this. So this Spark RDDs are eligible to have various transformation and action operations. I can show you some examples of transformation action operation. So let us see, like there is a map operation. So map operation means, suppose you are getting the values to visualization, and the values are very low scale value, and you want that if you will be means scaling up with the multiplication of 100, so you may get better visualization. So mapping is something like this. So here what we are doing, we are just doubling the numbers, whatever is the actual number. So with the help of mapping function, we are doubling it. And you just keep this in mind, it is all real time. So whatever streams are generated, you immediately you are doing this map function. So without any fraction of delay, you may able to do it as per your need. Okay, similarly, it is supporting various filter operations. So filter operation means, suppose we want only to have the even numbers here with the help of some mod operators we have defined. So 2, 4 and 6. So that can get filtered easily. So suppose you are getting the streaming data from multiple user, and you want that you want to focus on only the tweet of one user. If repeatedly how the means rumor spread is going on, if any particular user deliberately making tweets in different groups for some spreading of fake information or something like this, so this can be done with the help of small filtering operations. Okay, then we have to identify some distinct values. So again, the RDD can help us to identify the distinct values. So distinct values means we want to eliminate the repetitions, we want to see the actual appearance at least once. So this distinct function can help to get it. Then we have the flat map. So flat map means we are taking the reference value as an original value and we are mapping it to some function. So like we want to have every number and it's a square. So 1 square, 2 square, 3 square, this way. So that is basically a flat map kind of function. Similarly, there are various transformation operators. So transformation operators are possible. So basically here we are taking the power values, here we are taking the okay. Now come to the action operator. I think because of limited time I should finish. So action operators are basically we want to pick some of the observations. So take n means you out of these unlimited streams, suppose you want to pick a particular count, maybe 500 streams or maybe 100 streams, so that you can take with the help of this take operation and you can get it. And similarly collection operation is there. So collection operation is the same thing. We can collect 100 readings or 200 readings and so on. We can take the ordering. So ordered means either you can do the ascending ordering or descending ordering as per the given requirements, as per your requirements, whatever the data you are having. And again it is all real time. So whatever is going on, you may get it immediately. And you are dealing with the GBs of data or petabytes of data immediately within a fraction of seconds. So that is the power of using this whole distributed environment with Hadoop ecosystem. Similarly, we have filter operators, so it can filter as per your given data. Similarly, we have union operator, so it can give the composition, which is merging of any two files or something like that. So it can be work like a union function. So many multiple files can get clubbed together. So this is all about how to perform the real-time analytics over the streaming data. Now I am coming to the another point, that is the streaming function. So what else we have to do with the streaming function? So basically we have to see like how to generate the RDD with the help of that stream. So basically for that we have some functions which we can take the help, and once the stream has been created, then we can perform certain operations. So basically there are two types of operations. One is the stateless operations. So basically here it is a simple RDD transformation, and second is the stateful operations where we are doing some actual what you can say that modification or further storage for future purposes. Then in the streaming option you have chance to define your window size. So you can define your window size. There may be window type you can define, like sliding window, fixed size window, or parallel some count window or session based window, so that you can identify. There is a way to decide your window length, means fix your window length, sliding interval. These are the two things which you can set. And you can also do the window mechanism through count wise. So basically it will show the particular count of elements in a particular window. And similarly what we can do, we can take the window which is of shrinking type or reducing type as per our environment. So whenever like you want that if even numbers are recurring, so the window will go long until unless there is no odd number coming. So if there is an odd number, then definitely it will shrink with that even number only. So for any anomaly it can be make firm that there should not be entry of that anomaly over that particular window. So basically there are various functions which are available. You have to just set it for your reference. So this is basically the Spark setting. Suppose streaming is also done, then you may need various machine learning operations over Spark. So I can say that machine learning operations are fully featured. You can get ML operation in terms of classification, clustering, regression, collaborative filtering. You can get featureizations, things like feature extraction mechanism, then transformation techniques, dimensionality reduction techniques, and various way of selecting the features. There are pipelining provided. So pipelining are basically helping us for various real-time analytics, so that can be done. And there are various utility tools are also available. So for example, you want to take help of some statistical measures, so that can get embedded with the machine learning tools if it is required. So basically it is full of features. So these are basically the categories, like basic statistics we can perform, regression we can perform, classification, recommendation system is fully means all set of recommendation system algorithms are available here. All dimensionality reduction methods are here. So according to your need, you may able to utilize it. Okay, so pipelines are basically helping us to have better execution of job when we are dealing with the large data set. So that's it, that we can means just utilize. And I can move ahead with one more tool of Apache Hadoop, that is Flink. So again, I will be giving you a little surprise that although we said that streaming is real time, but actually streaming is having a little delay. So Spark came after this Apache, sorry, Flink came after this Apache Spark with more features. So more features means one example, if I have here, okay. So what you can say that they are having event driven application. So event driven application means you don't need to feed the data actually, but what you can do, it can record certain events and then generate the data with that event, and that then convert that data for further processing and finally serve the purpose. So basically it is having a complex event processing library. For example, I am not giving the data, but I am giving some events. So events are like for example, events through camera. So if I am keeping a traffic camera, and traffic camera is capturing all the speedy vehicles, okay, and these speedy vehicles are captured through traffic camera, and according to the captured image I am estimating their speed, and then I am generating the speed data, and then I am trying to maybe visualize or further process. So basically this Apache Flink is more rich in terms of capturing the events, then generating the data from that events, and further using the data for different purposes. So the main difference is it is having complex event processing libraries, so they are more towards the real-time utilities. And so basically this is the thing, like they are not expecting the pure or refined data, but you can offer them events, and from that events they may able to extract the data. So that is the plus point with the Apache Spark which we can have. And the another thing is like difference point of view, like always we say that the old technology is now obsoleting and new is coming. So the same here, Apache Spark is now getting obsolete and Apache Flink is coming, because Apache Flink is using Kappa architecture. So Kappa architecture and Lambda architecture, there are two architectures. So Kappa architecture means they are more towards in-memory computation. So they can take the data streams in such a way so that that can be processed even faster as compared to the conventional Lambda architecture. So that's why the Flink is more faster or more capable to handle the streaming data and in real time purposes. So what I want to distinguish here, like in a Spark we are taking the window, and window is not a complete picture of data, but it is one set of data. So whatever operations we performed over that window. Okay, so it was a still it is not real time, but it is a batch. So up to that window, when we are shifting to the new window, there may be a very slight time lag. But when we call about the Apache Flink. So it is not a kind of batch thing, but it is taking the individual element at once. So it is paying attention to the individual element of the streaming data. But in Spark, there was a batch of streaming data. So there was a little difference, you can say, in this way. Okay, so both are the streaming processing platform, and you can see that in Spark, like Spark, in Flink, we are having the most of the features. Like Flink is fully supported by ML libraries. Flink is having a graphical representation interface or visualization interface, which we call Jelly. It is having all query interfaces through tables. So basically, this Flink is supporting all the aspects, whatever is required to do any big data processing or to run any machine learning environment over big data. So it is having the layer which support storage, which support deployment, which support all kind of things. Okay, so I'm not going to highlight, I can conclude some of the aspects which may help you to decide. So if we are working in big data scenario, and if we are having the three options like Hadoop, Spark and Flink, so how to decide? So Hadoop is for batch processing. So we are assuming that all the data is at rest. So if it is the case, better go for Hadoop. Spark is Spark is basically for batch processing as well as for stream processing. But as I told you, the stream processing environment is not a truly stream processing, because we are not paying attention to the individual streaming element, but we are taking the batch of elements together. So that is the Spark limitation. Flink is a truly streaming processing platform. So if we are doing our processing with Flink, means we are doing it at the element level of the stream. Okay, so this is one difference. Rest of the things like Hadoop is collect once, process any time later. Spark is collect and immediately process, and Flink is also collect and immediately process. So there is basically they are not storing the data for future purposes. So they are doing the Spark and Flink, they are doing the in-memory computation. Okay, so this is the another thing. And obviously the Flink is more powerful as compared to Spark and Hadoop, and Flink is having more automated features, you can say. So most of the utility features are automated here. Flink libraries are not very stable, so that can be a little tricky if we are going ahead with some Flink projects. So we may get some of the unstable version over this. And okay, you can see here like tens of thousands of nodes you can process through Hadoop, up to 8,000 nodes we can process through Spark, and maybe thousands of nodes we can process with Flink with better capabilities. So this is the way how we do. Latency is minimum with the Flink, and Hadoop is definitely it is not at par with the Spark and Flink in terms of latency is concerned. Okay, processing is speed. If you need distributed processing, if you are dealing with the streaming data, definitely the Spark and Flink will be the choice. Otherwise, Hadoop also is highly suitable for heavy processing applications. The only thing is it is not working with the streaming data. Okay, recovery, they all are reliable, fault tolerant, so not as such very difference. Cost, so these three platforms can work with the commodity hardware, so no specific machines are required. The only thing is it would be good if we are having good amount of RAM for Spark and Flink, and if we are having better storage, means storage should be enough for Hadoop, but there is no restriction. You can run these three platforms with commodity hardwares. Okay, so okay, caching and hardware requirement no as such. Okay, fine. So this is all the references. You can see that most of the references are taken from various researchers, those actively contributing in this area. So what else I can extend if anybody is interested? We have some tutorials, step-by-step tutorials with all means very you can say that common problems. So we have taken all the problems and then solutions. So these tutorials I may extend to any participant if anybody is looking for. So I think that's it from my side. I'm open for a few questions, and I request organizers to take the control.
Yeah, hi,
Uh,
Sonali. Actually, we used this Kibana in our project, and thank you for providing the detail. From since I am from the vendor side, so I may not be able to understand the deep depth, but from your session, it will be very easy for me to understand how the team has worked. So please extend this PPT as well as the tutorial that you refer just few minutes back, so that we can go through, and definitely that will help.
Okay. Okay. Sure.
any other query, participants?
Good evening, ma'am. Sonali, ma'am.
Yeah. Good evening, Shashi.
Ma'am, you said the Flink has got all the ML algorithms.
Yeah.
So the same algorithms will be applied to the streaming data, which will be applied on the stagnant data,
Uh,
or
Not exactly. Actually, the streaming versions of algorithms are different. Like there is a normal clustering algorithm. You can
okay.
say that normal k-means, and there is a streaming version of k-means. So they are exactly means they are not same. They are different actually. Mm.
Ma'am, one more help from you. Actually, I am trying to explore the concept drift problem of streaming data. So,
Okay.
can you just guide me how I can proceed uh, to do that?
See, for concept drift problem is concerned, actually it is really a very hot topic of research. So anyone can take this as a PhD problem because it is not yet explored. So if you want to understand like from what tool you want to take, so I can I can very quickly say that you follow the Buffett and Zhao Gama. These are the two researchers. They are really working very hard with the concept drifts. And as far as the tool is concerned, initially if you don't want to go to the programming language, there is a tool MOA. You can start with
Yes,
that.
yes,
Yeah, you
yes,
understand
yes.
all the concepts from there, and
Okay.
then you switch to the Spark and Flink.
Okay, ma'am. That is what I wanted. Actually, I have started with MOA, but
Yeah,
in that tool, what it is like, it is complete GUI. Simply select the,
yeah,
select the
but
attribute and see the result. So I
yeah,
could
but
not find the inner details of the algorithms. So
yeah.
how, like, how can I get the materials related to the algorithms that work on the streaming data? That is.
So actually, the MOA is now extended to SAMOA,
Yes, yeah,
SAMOA.
more. Okay.
Yeah, so from where you can take, and for like for my experiences, I think Flink and Spark, they are having enough opportunity to work with the concept drift problems. But MOA is for initial level, it is good to understand like how the system is working. It is a kind of black box way of working, but it is good.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome.
And one more thing, ma'am. In order to use Flink, do I need to know about Spark, or directly I can go for Flink?
No, I think there is no need to go Spark first and then go Flink. You can directly go to the Flink, but you have to you have to be aware about this overall Hadoop ecosystem. So how to run a particular function because they all are
Yeah.
integrated.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's
Yes.
it. So Spark is not required as such.
Fine. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Any other query, participants? I think there is no query. Sonali
Okay.
ma'am, thank you very much for your valuable talk. It was actually very interesting. At least for the technical people, it was very interesting. The people who are from non-IT background have also got a good idea about these concepts, but definitely it gave meaningful insights for the IT people. So I would like to present this certificate of appreciation for your support as resource person in this FDP. I will be mailing this certificate to you later. Thank you
Okay.
very much to be part of this session.
Okay, okay. So thanks for getting me associated with this event. So again, every time it is good to get audience from all the sectors. So I'm happy to support any further query, any further association. So I welcome all the questions later also. Thank you very
Right.
much.
So in case any participant need Sonali ma'am's contact details, you can contact me. I will provide them to you.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Ranjana madam, for giving me this chance. So it is a nice experience to get associated with this FDP. All the best for your remaining sessions and remaining program. And please let me know anytime in future if I can get associated somehow. Thank you
Sure,
very much. All the
sure,
best.
ma'am. I'll be in touch with you. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye
Bye.
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 Participants, this is the end of today's session. Uh, the next session will be scheduled tomorrow at 10 a.m. Dr. Ajay, would you like to continue with the
Yes,
feedbacks?
yes, yes, madam. Yeah,
All right.
definitely. So
All
this
right.
was
All
a
right.
very good technical session which was taken by Sonali madam. It was a very good insights about Flinch, Hadoop and Spark. So I want some of our participants for the video feedback, and I request Mr. Vikas. He's a very consistent participant. Mr. Vikas, can you
Excuse me,
hear
sir.
me? Yes, yes, madam.
Excuse me, sir. Should I stop recording? Ranjana ma'am?
Yes, madam. Yes,
Yes, you should stop recording. We'll have separate recording for these feedbacks.
yes, yes, yes.
Okay,
We will have
okay.
separate record.